Welcome back, everyone, to our official SLE podcast. It's been about a month since the first episode, and that's why it's time for another episode, the second one. And we have different topics on our list today. First, we will of course look back at the 1 month of SLE play that we had so far, the regular season being nearly done. And we will also go over some other topics. We will look at some teams more in detail. And this time I will have like 3 different interview partners who will come on here for 5 to 10 minutes and talk about different things. So stay tuned for that. So, looking back at the first month of SLE play, I think it was a pretty successful split. Like, we had a lot of positive feedback. We stick to the things like the Swiss system that people really liked from last split. And I think it's going well. Like, we have some teams that have some issues scheduling, but we always had that since we basically decide that you have to play during 1 week the match. You can't postpone it to a different week. So that's to be expected. Besides that, I think even the teams at the lower spectrum of the league are having fun, are enjoying the league. Content is on an all-time high. Like, of course, the articles are missing right now. We will go on to we'll talk about that later on. But we have like podcasts. We have the Gucci podcast, the Do Podcast, I think, which is pretty interesting. It's once a week. Then we have the Rain D podcast, Into the Swamp, with the co-host GodofHax. That is more a meme podcast, if you want it like that. I think it's really interesting and gives the SLE a different vibe. And then we have this podcast, which is once a month, and it's more informative than anything else. Yeah, I think that's really, really good. In general, our streams are also on a really good all-time high. We had 24 games streamed so far in the SLE with a total amount of 792 different viewers. And the most viewed game this split was Gucci Yin against Black Flag Sailors. That series holds like the #1 spot on different measurements. Like they had the highest peak viewers at one point during the stream, the highest average viewers over the whole time, the highest amount of different people who clicked on the stream. So in general, that game was the most interesting one or the most viewed one, but also all the other ones, like the average amount of viewer per game went up by around 10 compared to last split, which is about 50% more viewers than we had last split, which I think is really, really interesting. Also, the amount of people who are active in chat went up by a lot. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with the way that the streams are working right now. We have a lot of brand new casters coming in who have not casted before, but who are leaving a great mark already in our casting scene. And we slowly are getting more producers who can fill in the void when Pepper has less time. But Pepper usually has time for most streams, so that's fine. Then, of course, we had the dropping out of Primordials during last week, which is really sad. Primordials being one of, if not the staple team of the last split. In Split 3, they entered the SLE for the first time. They had a really rough play-in stage. Back then, you had Division 1 and Division 2 instead of one league. And you had a play-in stage beforehand where the teams played in a Swiss system, and the top half of teams got to Division 1 and the bottom half got to Division 2. And back then, Primordials nearly went to Division 1, but in the end they lost to Black Manta and then to Eternal Blizzard and got sent down to Division 2, which they won. They won the Division 2. They got the title there, just to be eliminated by Gucci Gaming and Eternal Blizzard in playoffs. In Split 4, they directly started in Division 1 because they won Division 2 the split beforehand. It was decided they get a slot in Division 1 for the next split as well. They finished 7 of 10 ahead of the Veki Vress. Top 8 made playoffs. In playoffs, they got eliminated by White Tigers Esports immediately. And then we had Split 5, which was a rough split. They completely role swapped. They changed who drafts in their team. They changed the shot caller. All of that in a experiment to see what that brings them. Like how can the team adapt to those changes? And the answer is they couldn't. They didn't win a single game. They got a free win against a team that dropped out. But besides that, they lost every single game, which is really sad because I think they have great potential if they play with their main rosters or main lineup. And then they came back for Split 6, and in Split 6 they also had a rough start. They got their first win against the Grubbers, and after that resigned. But for everyone who doesn't know about it, or for everyone who's interested, I can tell you that the reason that they dropped out is not their performance. It's not like they were like, okay, we are keeping on losing, so we don't play anymore. It's more on a personal level, like roster issues and stuff like that they need to solve, and that they can't solve in the last weeks of SLE play. And that's why they decide to drop out instead of forfeiting every week. And they also said that they want to be back for Split 7. So everyone who is scared that the Promoters will never come back, there's a good chance that they will. And yeah, I'm also hyped for that. So far, we also had 18 roster changes. The most were made by Peachfish Woof, who have used 3 of their 5 roster splits so far. But yeah, in general, a lot of teams bringing in substitutes. Some teams changing their main roster as well. Peachfish Woof, for example, kicking Jaeger Bomb from their team due to personal issues. And yeah, also a team like Vintage and Pearl bringing in players like No Info, who should fill the void because that team was not really able to schedule that much with the main roster so far. So yeah, last thing to talk about while we recap the first weeks is the state of the articles. For those who noticed, when we had this episode of the last podcast, or the last episode of this podcast, back then we still had articles going, the SLE Weekly. The problem with that is that due to yeah, just a lot of negative feedback, not really constructive feedback, but more just like people like writing angry DMs and shit talking the whole articles and everything, which then led to the creator of the articles, me, deciding that it's not worth the time right now. But yeah, SLE Weekly will most likely not return in the format that we had it before, which was a weekly format where everything that happened in the last week was basically in article form for people to read. Rather than that, it will more likely be that for certain events, for example, next week we will have something, which I will talk about later, where an article will be alongside the other form of content that will be released. So yeah, we had discussions with some people in the community who were like, hey, I can do articles. And we always encourage that. If someone listening to this podcast thinks like some form of articles, no matter if it's daily, weekly, monthly, occasionally, and whatever, if it's just a match preview, if it's like banter, if it's whatever, you can do that. Just open a ticket, talk with us about it, so we can talk about the way how we promote it, what the certain guidelines are. But in general, we want community content creation. We want people to engage in community content, because the more content we have, the more interesting is the SLE for other people and for the people consuming content. So, going over to the next topic, I've decided to give my biggest surprise, both positively and negatively so far. And I want to start with the positive surprise. I've thought about it a longer time, and in the end I think it's the Black Flag Sailors from Sanctuary. Many people have seen that team beforehand as a bottom half team, or like a 12 to 13 to 14 team in beforehand at Max. And we had the show match between Eternal Blizzard and the Black Flag Sailors, where Eternal Blizzard completely dominated them. We had a lot of people from, for example, Gucci or from other teams who were making fun of the so-called contender team. They basically said that Black Flag Sailors will never be a contender team. There were people who were like calling it a joke team, and even the people that were like believing in Black Flag Sailors, even the team themselves were thinking that the team will at most be like a top 10 team. But the team actually equalized the record of the most games to start a season with, most wins, being 7 games in a row, which was also done by Red Team 1 in Split 1 and by Gucci Gaming in Split 3. Before they dropped the first game to Ekivrez and then they lost to EB. But they are still one of the top teams right now. And especially the jungler Noir Tempest has stepped up majorly and has become one of the top junglers in the SLE, who many didn't have on the radar before. Noir Tempest, for those who don't know, has played in the SLE before. He was a substitute for Snack Pack, where he filled in Split 4 and in Split 5. In Split 4 he played top lane for them, in Split 5 he played jungle for them, and now it's basically his first split as a main roster player, and he's kind of popping off. So yeah, I'm going over to the biggest negative surprise. Of course, there are different teams that you can name here. You have Gucci Yang, who are below their expectations. You have teams like Shaka Bantu or Snack Pack, who are in the middle of the pack, but should be higher for many. And then you have Vintage and Pearl, who are the biggest negative surprise for many, including myself. They were the supposed super team. They were on number 1 in the first power ranking. They have players like Ant, Dutch, people who won the SLE before, Trululu on mid lane who has stepped up, who's actually playing a good split. Like, he's the one player on the team who is having a good split. And they had Kolaski and LMR on support and bot lane. I think they already kicked those players or benched them, if I'm correct. And they have brought in some new players to basically fix the holes. And this supposed super team had, I think, 2 main issues. The first one being the scheduling. Like, they had a really hard time to schedule. I think oftentimes they were not able to play main roster. I don't think they played main roster even once so far. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think they never had main roster. And they often had to have people off role or bringing substitutes in. And that's one major issue. But the other one is also that the 2 star top side players and on top lane, who was a previous rookie of the split and top lane of the split, and Dutch, who is a multi-time MVP of the SLE, and for many the supposed jungle goat of the SLE. And they are having not their best splits. Like, it's basically the worst split ever in the SLE. Both of them are not looking as consistent as they did before, especially Dutch is not looking like the top jungler. I wouldn't even call him a top 3, top 5 jungler right now. And he really needs to step up and bring his game back, because we all know how good he can be, and he's not showing it right now. And that's why Vintage and Pearl is actually on the 20th slot of 23 teams. And they are in a big risk of not making playoffs. If they lose this week, it could already be too late. It could already be that even if they win next week, the Super Week, they get knocked out. They need to win every single game now to make sure that they get to playoffs and that they are not eliminated beforehand. And that would be a big surprise. If this team, full of SLE champions, full of like veterans and with so much talent, wouldn't make playoffs in a format where 16 of 24 teams make playoffs, 2/3 of the teams. So yeah. Speaking about next week, about the Super Week, which will be the last week of SLE, we will talk about it a bit more later. But something that will also happen are the awards. We will have our split awards, the team of the regular season or the team of the season. And additionally, we will have the MVP votes, where we have the first, second, and third team MVPs for each role. We will have the MVP of the whole league, and we will have the rookie of the split. And I thought this would be a good point to give some people that still want to make those teams, that want to get those awards, my prediction on who is the biggest front runner right now. Like, if the split ended here, and if I would be the one to decide, who gets the award for each role and for each category. It's basically those people. And yeah, for top lane, I have for the first team, I have Jordi of Assassin's Creed. I think he's having a really good split. He's looking strong even in the losses to Black Flag Sailors and Eternal Blizzard. He looked like the best player on his team. And I think he's the clear top laner right now to give this award to. The second top laner, the one for the second team, is Ruzu of Gochien. I feel like he is having a really good split as well. He had one bad series against the Black Flag Sailors, which wasn't even that bad. It was not really good either, but it was okay. And he's really stepping up. He's winning most matchups. He has a really good champion pool and is he is making Gochien one of the best teams from the top lane, and that's really incredible. And the third top laner is basically GodofHax. GodofHax, someone who many have not viewed as a good top laner before the split, or at least a maximum decent top laner. But he's winning matchups against the so-called good top laners of the SLE. He brought a lot of stability to Eternal Blizzard, and yeah, that's why I have him on number 3 for top lane right now. Going over to the jungle, I have Noir Tempest on number 1 of Black Flag Sailors. He's having a really, really good split, especially when playing against Assassins in Greed, and when playing against Gochien, he has completely diffed his opponent junglers, being JL and Maybe. And he just looked really strong. He plays carry champs, and that's why I have him right now on number 1. On number 2, I have IFX, the jungler of Eternal Blizzard. The same as for some other people on this list, including GodofHax, for example. I didn't rate him that high before the split, but he has improved a lot and has shown that he can be one of the best junglers in the league, and his form just makes him someone that I want to see in the awards. And on number 3 in jungle, I have Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac was always good in the SLE, but he was always lacking a bit behind the top. Like, for example, you always had JL and Dutch ahead of him, and he was always like 3rd, 4th, 5th jungler of the SLE. And right now I also see him like that, but I see him above JL, I see him above Dutch, above those other junglers that are seasoned, for example, also above Evo right now of Stackpack. So yeah, Jonathan Isaac on number 3. On mid lane, I have the Gochien mid laner, Kim Jensen, on number 1. I think he's having a really, really good split. He's bringing a lot of stability to this team. He won the SLE before last split, and with Gochien. And he's coming back to win it again. Like, if it was just Kim Jensen, I think they would win the SLE a second time. Then on number 2, I have Flo, the mid laner of Silver Phoenix, who is having a really, really good split. His team is in the middle of the pack, is struggling a lot, and he's not having bad games. Every time I see this guy, he's completely smurfing mid lane. He has one game solely for them, and it's just such a great player to watch, such a strong mid laner. And I have him on number 2 here. And on number 3, I actually have Denzer of Black Flag Sailors, who is having a really good split as well. Like, of course, it's still the shaky Denzer that we used to see ever since he joined the SLE, occasionally having just bad games. But this split, he had a lot of really good games. Against Veki Res, he solo won them a game with a 21 kill Vex in about 21 minutes. And that's why I have him on number 3 for mid lane. For bot lane right now, the front runner, in my opinion, is Shikioran. Shikioran always was one of the main ADCs ever since he entered the SLE in Split 2. But he's always fell short of the SLE title, and he has always fell short of the bot lane MVP, or the bot lane All-Pro award. And I think this time, this split is his split. This split is the B split, and that's why I have Shikioran on 1. On number 2, I have Sanix of Guchian, who's also one of those ADCs that have been around for a long time. He actually played on Red Team 1 and Jungle in Split 1, like just a long history of that player, and I think this split he's also stepping up a lot, giving Guchian such a strong carry in a lot of situations. And the third bot laner is the ADC of Assassins and Greed, I Won't Leash, IWL, who in my opinion also has stepped up a lot. Like, he is performing to a good level in the wins. He looks like maybe the strongest player on the team, besides Jordi. And even in the losses, he looks solid. That's why I have him on number 3. And lastly, for supports, on number 1, I have Loco, the duo pre-made, the support of Shikioran. So both EB bot laners on number 1. I think Loco is just like, he's the support goat of the SLE. And he's showing why that's the case this time. It could be his 3rd championship on the 3rd different team, which would be just incredible. On number 2, I have the only support in the league right now where I think you could argue about him maybe becoming the support goat at one point, and that's Elrad of Vekivres. Even though the Vekivres are struggling, even though it's not the super team many expected, Elrad is still having a really good split. He's consistent, he has not that many bad games, and that's why I have him on number 2. And on number 3, I have Moppo, the support of Black Flag Sailors, who is just stepping up. His Renata was something that was mentioned across multiple podcasts so far, and yeah, it's just also the unique playstyle of the Black Flag Sailors that we don't really see like that in any other team so far, which is defined by Moppo. And yeah, then there are 2 other awards, the MVP and the Rookie. For those who don't know, we have the All-Pro teams, which are also referred to as MVPs sometimes. And then you have the MVP award, Most Valuable Player. And that award is something that I would give to Flo right now, because I think he is the single player that is the most important for his team. Like, he is playing so good for Silver Phoenix. I think if it wasn't for Flo, the team would probably be even below Vintage and Pearl right now. So yeah, that's the MVP. And the Rookie of the split is something that I think is pretty easy to give to Jordi right now. Like, he has been named the Player of the Week by the Into the Swamp podcast. He has had 2 Team of the Week appearances so far, and just in every game he played, he looked like maybe the best player on the entire map. And that's just really incredible. And yeah, speaking about Jordi, we will have an interview coming in with said Jordi. Hey, Jordi.
Hello, hello.
Can you give me a small introduction to you as a person? Where do you come from?
So, I'm Jordi. I'm the top lane of Assassins and Greed, or like previously Shorty23. Some people in the community may also know me as the top laner from UB Tenacity, where I played in two of the Monta Cups. Yeah, and in like February, I think, I joined Assassins and Greed and the Sanctuary community.
All right. And speaking about the SLE, when was the first time you ever heard about the SLE as a league, and what was your first impression of it?
I think it was actually Gucci Savage Mikus, who during the 3rd Manta Cup posted like the link to the Discord and a little introduction to the SLE, and like tagging some of the teams from that Manta Cup. So yeah, I like my first impression. I looked at the introduction. I felt as if it was already a kind of established league, but yeah, did not have that much additional information, as we also like decided to not participate back then.
All right. Now that you also already played in the league for a while and you followed it a bit, what would you say is the biggest benefit of the SLE as a league for people who might be interested playing in it?
So what makes the SLE a different league than some of the other leagues is the SLE is a really like active league, especially regarding the community. The community is a really like committed community. There is so much content during the games, uh, with like the power rankings and stuff, and like team of the week. We have a really like active community who engages in topics, also like apart from the Rift.
Right. And what would you say is the biggest downside that the SAE has right now, and how would you like it to be fixed?
So, I mean, there is one, like, in my opinion, a really necessary aspect, which has been the topic of discussion, which is the elo cap. I think it's like a good decision to have this kind of thing, but of course the implementation does always lead to some problems and some people not being happy about some of the rules. Yeah, the thing is, I don't really have like this good fix for that, because like there will always be teams who um, try to build their roster with like this. I don't know. I think in the Gucci podcast they talked about like cheap and expensive players, where you have players who did not have a like really high solo queue peak, but are really good team players, and like the expensive players, vice versa. Yeah, it's an aspect that will never be free of discussion and controversy, but I think this elo cap still necessary.
All right. And if you'd rate the SLE as a league on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being a bad league that you will never play again after the split, and 10 being the best league you've ever played, maybe the league that you will always come back if it runs, how would you rate it, and why would you rate it that way?
So at first I was like about to give it like a 9, but at the end of the day, I feel like there will always be like these little things that uh, are in this case not even particularly bad. But like just the simple fact that we have this infrastructure with this much engagement from the players and the community is so amazing that I'll just give it a straight 10.
Oh, that's nice. Are there actually any teams in the SAE that you would like to face in playoffs? It could be teams that you faced already this split, teams you haven't faced so far, teams that are favorites, or maybe underdogs that barely make playoffs that you would like to play, and why?
So obviously I would like to have revenge against like of course Black Flag Sailors, but especially against Eternal Blizzard. I think they are, in my opinion, by far the best team at the moment in the league. So I do want to meet Eternal Blizzard, but I want to meet them in finals. Um, in general, I'd like to, like, for one, face Wacky Wraiths, the other sanctuary team we haven't faced yet, just to decide who's better, right? Because we have never played them so far. And in general, I also would like to face Vitage and Pearl. I mean, I know they are struggling at the moment, but I still think they have one of the best top sides in the league. Um, and yeah, I've heard lots of good things about Ant, and as a fellow top laner, I'd like to play against them.
All right, and then with a final question, what is your goal for the split? You can answer this both as a player and as a team. And what would be the minimum where you would be like, okay, this is still fine, we are still comfortable with this result? So yeah.
So I think the goals as a player are the same as like as a team. The goal is obviously to win. I think we have proven that we are a good team, and I want to prove that we've got what it takes to win the whole thing. This like what's called minimum, I would be fine with. I think I would like to at least reach semifinals. I think we've got what it takes. And like I would be disappointed if I mean it's double elimination, so I would be disappointed if we lose to a worse team because we're just like playing bad on two different occasions and drop out. earlier. So I think semifinals would be reaching semifinals would be like the minimum.
All right, then that's our short interview at this point. Thank you very much for joining me, Jordi.
It's been a blast.
See ya. Now that we're done with the interview with Jordi, we will go over to some team presentations, if you want it like that. Last time we had 6 teams that we took a more in-depth look at, and now we take at a good chunk amount of teams a deeper look. And we will start with the Assassins and Greed, just because it's chronologically fitting into this point. And we've talked to Delph, the support and team captain, about how the split is going right now. They are on 8-4 in the SLE, at a good, strong position. And yeah, he was asked what basically makes this team such a good team, or what brings them to a situation where they are a main contender in the SLE, a main favorite, maybe even. And Delph said that one of the biggest things is that they always have good vibes, or nearly always have good vibes. They click together even outside the game. They are friends playing the game. And that is just really easy for them to improve as a team, and not just look at, okay, how can each individual improve, but it's rather, how can we as a team improve? And additionally to that, he also thinks that they have the biggest weapon that they have is Jordi, the top laner, who we just heard on the interview. It just shows that the team appreciates having that player on their team. In general, he thinks that their drafts are one of the best in the SLE. He thinks most teams don't draft as well as the Assassins do. But he also feels like that is a downside, because it makes them easy to predict. They have a really normal playstyle. They have a playstyle that is nearly always the same, with the same carries. Some would call it the typical Sanctuary playstyle that also teams like Snackpack or Vekivres or Black Manta back then used to play. And yeah, that's why there's some predictability in that for the teams that take deeper researches when preparing. And generally thinks that Eternal Blizzard is the main favorite. They've just been smacked by Eternal Blizzard in the last week, or in this week on Monday. And he thinks they are the best team in the SLE, and is pretty certain that they will win it. But he wants to have a rematch with them. And in general, he thinks that besides EB, the biggest positive surprise would be the Black Flag Sailors. He thinks they massively improved since the show match against EB, where they get destroyed, and the Pirate Bay Invitational, which was their own tournament before the SLE, where they got second, but they had no chance against Assassins and Greed in the finals. And he thinks they made the biggest step. And in general, he really likes to play against the Sailors. The other 2 teams that he has really positive feelings for are Eternal Blizzard. He thinks they are really nice people. He had fun scheduling with them, and just described the entire atmosphere when playing them as positive and lighthearted. Besides that, they also have some friendships with Strawberry Glacial, and are slowly developing a team friendship with that team as well. Going over to the next team, we can talk about Solaris Eris. Solaris Eris last split basically got founded mid-split. They took over the spot of Quantify. There was a team called Quantify which was not doing great, and it broke apart. And then the team decided to just kick their entire roster, rename to Solaris, Eris in this case, and just bring in 5 new players. And those 5 new players are still the players that play on Solaris Eris right now. They finished 13th last split, so just barely above not making playoffs. But this time we talked to Tenno, the top laner, and he says that the team wants to win it all. He sees them as a top 5, but more a top 3 team in the SLE, and he has really big trust in the roster. And that's why they kept going with the same lineup as they did before. And he has made a statement that he sent us, which I will not read fully because it's just really long, but I will read parts of it. So he said, Solaris Eris, like the sun, always rises, stronger and brighter each day. And then later on, he also finishes this statement with the spirit of our namesake, we are destined to ascend, leaving no doubt about our luminous place at the pinnacle of the league. So really, he's really confident. He sees his own team, and I think that's a good thing, as one of the top teams. Like if you see your own team as like a bottom team, then it's hard to improve, in my opinion. Like you should always see your own team as a good team, or as a contender at least, and strive to win the league. So yeah, and in general, he added that it's in general for a team most important to understand each other and to adapt with each other, like to learn as a team. And he thinks Solaris Eris is doing that right now. Like they all are clicking with each other, and they can work on problems as a team. And yeah, they're on 6-4 right now, and could be one of the teams who are still in the run for the regular season title. Going over to a team that is not performing that well so far. Peachfish Woof. Peachfish Woof is on a 4-6 record. They started with 0-6 and are now on 4-6. And we talked to the top laner, to Shy, about it, who was recently on Eternal Blizzard last split. And yeah, he was asked how he would rate his own team, if he thinks that his team is really a bottom team of the SLE, or if it should be a lot above that. And he has basically said that if you want to know how his team is ranked, and if you want to see where his team belongs, you should just watch the SLE power rankings, because that's a really good measurement to how good a team is. So yeah, they are on number 18 right now, which is their peak rank in the power rankings so far. So yeah, that's where he sees himself apparently. For those who don't know, Peachfish Woof has a mother team. Like they have a Swedish team playing in the ERS, and that team is really strong. And the Peachfish Woof that we have is more an academy team, or like a for fun team, how they describe it. But they are always in like communication with their mother team, getting like help from the coaches, and just learning from the mother team. Shy as a person was asked who he would like to play in the SLE, which top laners he would like to match with. And he has named 3 top laners, one being Ruzu of Gucci, the second one being GodofHax of Eternal Blizzard, and the third one being Bannerex of Slim Odds. Bannerex in general having a really good split once more on a team that's not really that good. So I can see why he wants to play against that top laner who single-handedly wins games for his team. Since the start, that was really rough for them. They lost to Vitigent Pearl, they lost to Vitigent Diamond, and started with 0-6. And since then, they started to work on their issues. They fixed major macro issues. He has the opinion that the team is a lot stronger now than 1 month ago. And they also brought in a new player. They have removed Jägerbomb, the mid laner, from their team, and they have brought in a player that's really close to their mother team, to the Swedish mother team, called SOK, or SOK, who is a really close friend to the mother team, and who should bring stability to this roster. And yeah, Shy is really comfortable with this team right now and thinks they can rise up the ranks. Yeah, let's jump over to another team that's struggling right now, Lynx Dream, the Estonian roster that is that kind of replaced Revelings in the SLE. And we talked to the support, Grelis. So yeah, she was asked how they see their current team, if they still think about making playoffs, if that's still something that they think is possible. They are currently on 5-7. They got a bye week this week because they would have been matched with Primordials, so they jumped from 3-7 to 5-7. And Gradis is actually pretty confident that they will still make playoffs. She thinks that the team is growing, improving, slowly growing together, and she thinks for a top 16 spot it should be enough. In general, they have a close connection to Revelings, the team that won the regular season last split. Mostly being No Info and the multi-millionaire Che, who are investing and helping Lynx Dream get better at the game. Che, of course, also giving them more equipment, better gaming PCs. I've heard that he actually bought them an entire house, a gaming house, just for this split. But yeah. The team Lynx Dream was founded in November last year under the name Emerald Punishers for the Manta Cup that was hosted in January. They played with the entire roster right now, except they had No Info on jungle instead of Kebab Spinner, who is the jungler right now. And yeah, in that Manta Cup, they got knocked out by Snack Pack in the quarterfinals. And that's why Gradis really wants a revenge on Snack Pack, ideally in playoffs, because she wants to take revenge for the knockout in the Manta Cup, and she thinks that they can go toe-to-toe with Snack Pack. Besides that, she also really wants to play against Revelings, not against Revelings, against Gucci Yang, where the ex-top laner of Revelings, Los Moderato, is playing, and she wants to, quote, show him that he doesn't belong on support. He was a previous top laner, and yeah, apparently she's not that happy with him playing on support. But yeah, in general, she just thinks that her team and the individual players have improved a lot since the beginning of the split. And it will be really interesting to see if Lynx Dream is climbing up the ladders or if they are in the end falling short. The next team on our list that we will go through today is Dangerous Game. Dangerous Game currently being 5-5 in the middle of the pack. And we talked to Oppression, who was formerly known as Terraforming when he was playing ADC on Enlan. And yeah, he was basically asked where he sees his own team, Dangerous Game, and he responded that he thinks Dangerous Game right now is a top 4, top 5, top 6 team around that area. So not a title favorite, but a contender for it. He thinks the team will eventually get back to a winning record and slowly work themselves up the rankings. Many have wondered if this team is just a one-split team. Because last split, basically, the players were playing on a different team called Enlan. They rebranded for Dangerous Game, changed their roster a bit, bringing in Shy City and bringing in Lurks. And he was asked if this team is just a one-split team or if they plan to stick around, and he said that they hopefully will keep the roster for multiple splits. They don't really want to rebrand another time, so yeah, they are pretty happy with the Dangerous Game image, and they want to establish themselves as a main org in the SLE. For this split, Oppression really wants to play some teams. He wants to play both Gucci teams, Yin and Yang. He really wants to play Vintage and Diamond and also Eternal Blizzard. He just thinks they're really, really interesting to play. Right now, they actually have a bit of infighting. Infighting, of course, being more a tabloid term here. You could also call it a jungler battle or whatever. The two junglers, basically, I Play You Listen, who was the main jungler at the beginning, and the substitute Jirachi are fighting for the main roster spot, or they are playing, and in the end, the team wants to see who they work with the best. I think I Play You Listen started the first games, and Then Jirachi came in again in the last week's series against Snakepack, I believe. And yeah, it's kind of interesting to see who in the end will start. If it will be I Play You Listen or Jirachi. And yeah, the Dangerous Game is the team that's the closest to the ELO barrier. 2,600 as an average ELO maximum is our ruling, and they were like 0.2 points below that. And they have said that roster creation was really hard because they were so close, and it was really hard to find the right players to still be within the ELO barrier. But yeah, jumping from Dangerous Game to a team that's a bit more successful right now, we have an interview with the Black Flag Sailors SNC, who are on 7-3, and we talked to Noir Tempest, the jungler, on some different things. He was basically asked why his team is performing so well, or how he views the chances of his team so far. And he said that against Gucciyin, in his eyes, they had the best League of Legends they played. Before that, they played worse, and after that, they've also dropped down a bit in performance, or dipped a bit. But against Gucciyin was basically, that's the peak Black Flag Sailors that we can expect if they play up to their best game. And if he thinks they can still be a favorite for the SLE, but they need to play more consistent on the level that they have shown in Glimmers. He thinks that the biggest strength of the Black Flag Sailors is their support, Moppo. He thinks that Moppo gives his team a really unique play style, because different to the other Sanctuary teams, or different to most other teams in the SLE, Black Flag Sailors see themselves as a team with 3 solo laners, being Linus on top lane, Denzo on mid lane, and Pharaoh on ADC, and 2 junglers, Noir Tempest and Moppo. So they basically don't really see the support as a support, but more as a second jungler to make plays. And you can see that in the play style. They make a lot of proactive plays on the top side. They move a lot around the map, which is, I think, a fresh approach to the game compared to most other teams in the SLE. And yeah, Noah Tempest wants his team to be a contender. He wants his team to be like a top 5 team, and he wants to give his best every single week to achieve that. Besides themselves, he sees Assassins and Greed, Wacky Vress, and Eternal Blizzard as the top 3 teams in the SLE. Pointing out that all those teams have really strong rosters and should be in the end the strongest teams. I've mentioned it before, but Noah Tempest was playing on Snakepack for the last 2 splits. And that's why he's really, really disappointed with their performance right now. He thinks they should be one of the top teams in the SLE, but they rather look like a bottom team right now. And also the players that he has a really big opinion of, like Cybotop or Sushi Killer, are just not performing in a way that they should be. Like, the potential is so high, but like the performance is not there, and that's why he's really, really disappointed in them. On the flip side, he thinks that Jordi, the top lane of Assassin's Creed, we've mentioned him before. He got mentioned in a lot of different circumstances. Noir Tempest also thinks that Jordi is the best player in the SLE right now. And yeah, in general, he is really happy with the split. He was asked what the biggest or the biggest thing in the SLE for him is, the most positive thing. And he mentioned that he really likes the shit talk between some teams, the banter, the memes, and he wanted to end his interview, or his like the talk that we had with them, with a question towards the Wacky Res. So if you're on the Wacky Res, then this question is for you. How can your team be so bad that you lose to Gucciyin? The next team on our list is Eternal Blizzard. We talked to Shiki Oren, the ADC of the team, who is currently 10-2. They are number 1, the undisputed top team in the SLE right now. And Tikiorin was asked where he sees himself right now, and he said Eternal Blizzard is a top 5 team with the potential to be the best team if they bring their best game to the table. He was asked which team he would be the most exciting to play, and he basically named the Black Flag Sailors. He said he's looking forward to another rematch, a third one that it would be. And he thinks they have improved a lot. Like, he played them in a show match and he thought, like, yeah, it's not good. That team is not good. Then he played them in the SLE in the regular season. And he was like, hey, they improved a lot. They maybe are the best team that we faced so far. And then, yeah, he likes to play them again in playoffs. So we will see if that will happen. And for those who don't know, Eternal Blizzard was a team in Split 3. They played in Split 3, they were a super roster back then, and they didn't have a bad split, but also not the best split. They got 4th. They got eliminated by Black Manta. And yeah, back then they had Michi Darko on top lane, they had Ichi Goatee in the jungle, they had Kim Jensen on mid lane, and they had Loco and Chikyoran on bot lane. And initially they wanted to run it back with the entire EB roster, but then it was not sure who of the players would actually join, and they also made some new friends from the CEO of Disappointment, aka the Greasy Goblins. So in the end they decided to go with GodofHax and Barakugama on the solo lanes, and then they also met IFX for the jungle, decided to go with that roster instead of the old Split 3 roster. In general, he thinks that the team is better than Split 3, especially the bot lane, but the bot lane is also not up to the maximum yet. He thinks there's still a lot of improvement to be done for him, Loco, and for the entire team. And speaking of Eternal Blizzard, there's actually one person on Eternal Blizzard, namely GodofHax, who has joined the SLE in Split 5, and since then he has worked more and more to be intertwined with the community, with the SLE in general, and who has recently started to work in content creation as well. Hey, GodofHax.
Hello, Linus. Pleasure to be here.
All right. Would you like to introduce yourself really quickly for those who don't know who the legendary GodofHax is?
Legendary. I don't know if I'm legendary. I can do a quick introduction. So in Split 5, I played on Greasy Goblins as the support. And that was my first time in the SLE. We played in Split 5, and then, yeah, since then I've been casting a lot mostly. And now recently, large props to Raint. We've made a little bit of a podcast called Into the Swamp in Split 6. And I'm also playing on a team for EB as a top laner. So yeah, that's kind of me, I guess. Yeah, casting and doing the pod.
All right, before we go over to what you do right now, let's look back to last split. You joined the SLE in Split 5. When was the first time that you heard about the SLE, and what was your first impression before you joined and when you joined?
So I joined, I was basically just chilling in my everyday life, and then the ADC, so an old friend of mine from Greasy Goblins, GodofHax, he basically just called me and said, hello, do you want to play on a team in League of Legends? I was like, hell yeah, I love playing League. And that was like the first time. Then he was just like, oh, we're playing in SLE. And then we talked together, right, the Greasy Goblin squad. And I basically got to learn about the SLE, and like Panini taught me largely, I would say, mostly some good cheese stories and stuff like that. Like a bit about Vitagen, like the reigning champions. That was like my introduction, basically. Just Snacks called me up, we started a team, and then we played.
All right.
First impressions, I guess.
Yeah, your impression.
I mean, first impression was really fun. I remember we did the show matches, which was a lot of fun, like super fun, right? We had all the casters. We were like, oh, we're getting casted. I remember I was very hype in the first or second show match. We faced like Young with Captain and an Ace. And I remember I had like a little bit of a caster moment where I dodged a skill shot and this went, oh my god, it's GodofHax. That was very hype. That was very fun.
Yeah, I love those moments. Like when you play in the SLE or in general, and your game is being casted, and then the caster's hype because of you. Like I know back in like there was a Manta Cup where I was playing in Laui, and I got a 1-4 quarter kill on the side lane. The caster was like, "Oh my god, this is Laui!" Like that just it touches you on a different level. Like it really means something, I think, to you or to me in that case, when people acknowledge you publicly in a way like that. It's really cool.
I mean, it's just super fun having a caster moment. It's just a banger.
Yeah,
It's hard
I
to
agree.
describe, but it's just fun.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, speaking about Split 5, could you summarize your Split 5 with the Greasy Goblins in 3 sentences or less?
3 sentences. We beat the Captain and Ace one game, and then we lost to Blazing Pandas. And then we had a pretty decent run, then we lost in playoffs to Vitagen, I guess is the fast summarization. It was very fun.
But yeah, that sounds very fun, I guess. But yeah, after Split 5, you were basically done. I think the Greasy Goblins pretty quickly decide they don't want to come back, if I'm not...
Yeah, like we had
No.
a bit of a... We talked basically, and it was... Like people had kind of different goals for the team. So like some people want to play for fun, some people want to be more serious, and Snacks got a girlfriend, so yeah, that's... Yeah, I don't think I had a girlfriend at the time, actually, I'm lying. But Snacks had stuff to do in real life, basically.
All right.
Yeah, there was like a bit of a different, like, people still kind of wanted to play, but they weren't really sure. So we kind of let it be, how do you say, open, basically. And then depending on what happened, because, I mean, some of the people really wanted to play, but some were less or more engaged. And depending on, we might play in some capacity together.
All right.
What-
When you were waiting for Split 6, you as an individual, how certain were you that you want to play in Split 6? Or wasn't it really sure?
It was very uncertain, actually. So I didn't really put out a ton of effort into looking for teams. I basically had the mindset like, if someone wants me, I will try out and see if I find a team that I like. And personally, I didn't think people wanted to pick me up because I didn't have like the best split on support. So I basically had to like, maybe someone will scout me. If they don't, I'll do some other stuff, right? So it was very uncertain actually, but I think it was November, December somewhere. I did get some teams that were interested, so I was like, oh, okay, there are some teams, right? And then I started trying out to see if I could find a team, basically. But it was very uncertain. It was definitely not 100%.
Yeah, I actually have a question that I want to throw in here. Why in the end did you decide to play with Eternal Blizzard and Shiki, Loco, and the other guys?
So I had a few teams. I'm not sure how much it matters, but I had a team where it was Revelo's team, basically. Revelo Aeong, and I really hit it off with Revelo and Aeong. Great guys, like really funny. But Revelo got some stuff to do, so he in the end didn't really have time to manage that team. So it kind of like smoldered out, how do you say? And then I was kind of like, maybe I don't play, right? Like I was kind of like, maybe I don't play. Because that was like a team I was kind of like, this is the team I kind of want to play on. And then basically, I just typed it like, hello, you want to play for a team? I was like, what's the team? It's like me, Loco, Shiki. And then they didn't know the jungler at the time. I was like, yeah, what position do I get? He's like, top on camp, sold. Because I mostly looked for mid, because I'm not a support main, right? So I didn't really want to play support. So when he said top, I'm like, that sounds good to me. You're better than me on mid anyway, Bowie.
Yeah, cool. I think your team is really exciting to watch. But going a bit away from your aspect as a player, you've stepped up as one of the major casters recently. You're casting a lot, play. I think a lot of people have like their favorite GodofHax moment. But besides that, you were also like co-hosting the SLE opening stream with me together, which was usually always done by the two admins. And you're also the co-host, I think, in the Into the Swamp podcast. Why have you decided to engage more on the creator side?
And it kind of goes back a bit to my university days. Like public content, what do you call it? Like freelance content. I'm not sure the word in English, but it's like we call it ideal. Like it's people who basically don't get paid to do things, right? And the SLE is like an ideal community where it's like no one really gets paid, right? So in the university times, I was on a lot of these types of communities. Specifically, I was like a bar master because we have a bar where people basically work for free to serve very cheap alcohol to students. And I was very engaged in those types of things in university. So I think it's a part of me that just kind of naturally gravitates to giving back because I feel like it just makes sense, right? If I go to the bar, right? This was the reason he had back then. It's basically the similar for the SLEs. Like if I go to the bar, I enjoy my time there. It makes sense to work once to give back, basically, right? And it's basically the same in the SLEs. Like I really enjoy when people cast me. I really enjoy getting streamed. I think it's really fun. So I just do casting to give back. For the podcast specifically, like massive shoutouts to Reigned. It kind of goes back to an old idea where last season, some people know I had a attempt to make something called SLE True Power Ranking. It didn't really happen because I could not organize it well enough. But it's basically similar idea to what Reigned had. And then this season, Reigned was like, I'm doing a podcast. Do you want to be co-host? I'm like, yes, certainly, 100%. And then I just joined it. But yeah, Into the Swamp is 90% Reigned. Shoutouts there.
Yeah, big shout out. Maybe you will feature on a different episode of the official SLE podcast. But yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made there, because in the end, like everyone that creates content for the SLE was a player at one point. Like Mikus back then, Savage, for those who don't know, he wasn't part of the moderation team when he started writing his articles back then. And when he had less time to write his articles, I decided I will fill that hole basically. And I was also not a moderator or an admin back then. And basically all this content comes from the community, and it only works when people are engaged. And I'm really, really happy with the development this split, especially your podcast with Rain D. Like that one is really, really fun. But also the podcast that Gucci is doing is really exciting. The streams, and it's just a lot of engagement, and makes the league really special for me. But yeah, I want to ask you one last question. Since you're playing on Eternal Blizzard and you're on the first seed right now, I think with like 10 wins at recording. If you...
Yeah, 10, yeah.
What did you say? Sorry?
Yeah, it's 10. It's 10.
It's 10, yeah. If you had 100% of title chance and you have to distribute it under 5 SLE teams, the top 5 teams, which 5 teams are the top 5 teams, and who gets what percentage on winning the SLE?
So I did this question in 2 parts, one with EB in the pool and one without. But yeah, I think if we put EB in the pool, it's kind of skewed because as a player, I have this perception that if you don't believe you can win, you will never win either. So counting with EB, I basically give 50% EB, which is like an overestimation if you were supposed to do this rationally, but I can't do it rationally or unbiased because I'm on the team, right? So with EB in the pool, I did basically 50% EB, and then I did a 15% split between Jin and Diamond, Vitagen. And after that, I put 10% to Black Flag and Assassin's Creed. I think those are 4 teams I look for. If we remove EB, my teams are basically the same, except I add Solaris and Eris on a bit of a percentage at the end. But yeah, I think Jin and Diamond look really good, and outside of those 2, it's Black Flag Sailors and Assassin's Creed. It's kind of hard to say exactly who's stronger. I think Jin's roster is really good. But Black Flag look better right now, right? And Diamond look good. They have good players. I think they also they have a good meta for the SLE, I would say. If that makes any sense. And they also got helped a bit by the crit upgrade in the patch, I think. Assassin's Creed I just think are really good overall. And Solaris and Eris is similar.
I mean, that's a good choice of teams. I'm kind of surprised, or not really surprised, but you left out Vacuum Rest, even though they are the silver medalists of Split 5 and they haven't changed the roster. Do you want to give a quick explanation on why you didn't include Vacuum Rest even in the version where you don't include EB?
So I watched most of the games, like not all. No, I don't watch 100% of the games, but I watched most of the games, and Wacky, like they have lost their strengths, if that makes any sense. At least at the current state of them, where Case Mace, which is kind of like a pillar holding them down, is losing certain lanes, which is bad because he's like kind of like a pillar for them. And they're kind of winning bot, but Butner is struggling in team fights, which is like their win condition. So I feel like their best performing player right now is like Usejin almost. And if your best performing player is Usejin on that team, it feels kind of bad, I would say, because their team is kind of built around their Case Mace frontlining for Butner and stuff like that, right? So I just feel like they haven't really been performing, I guess, in a short version.
All right. But then I'd say that's it for our interview. Thank you very much for being my guest. Do you have any final words you want to give to the SLE community listening to this podcast?
If anything, like try to engage in creating some content, I guess. You don't have to cast, right? You can just find a way to make content you enjoy for the league, and it's a lot of fun. I'd give it a try.
All right, then thank you, Hex. Thank you very much. And I wish you a great day, and we will continue with the next topic.
Super. Thank you.
After this lovely interview with GodofHax, we'll go over to the next team, which is Black Lotus Esports SNC. Black Lotus is currently on a 4-6 record, and we talked to the mid laner and team captain GodofHax. The first question that we asked him was about the recent roster swap, because the team has swapped top lane a lot. I think they had like 3 or 4 different top laners ever since they revamped their roster. And when asked why they swapped it a lot, he said that the old ones didn't really play the playstyle that the team needed. They need a really specific role from their top laner, a really specific playstyle. And that's why they went with Noir 776 in the end. He mentions that Noir individually is not the best top laner. The skill ceiling isn't the highest, but he's doing exactly what the team wants, and he is really eager to learn, and that's why they decided to go with Noir instead of their old top laner. Of course, the playstyle really being built around their jungler, Shizu. Shizu formerly was an OTP jungler, an Belveth OTP, which is mostly banned against him in the SLE. And Shizu is the carry jungler for the team. He's the best player of that team. He's maybe one of the highest junglers solo queue-wise in the entire SLE. And according to GodofHax, he now has a champion of like 6 or 7 champs that have a really carry-oriented playstyle. And that really fits the team with Shizu as the main carry. In general, he thinks like the team has to work a lot on their voice comms, on the shot calling. Sometimes they are really messy and they lose the focus on the game during the games. And he wants to work on that. And he also wants to improve the way that his team plays when ahead. Like he mentions they got a few leads in their losses and then just threw the game away because they don't really close out the games. They don't really play with their lead. They give away shutdowns, giving their opponents options to come back every single time. And that's something that he really wants to work on. He was asked which teams he would like to play this split, and he said he wants to play against Assassins and Greed, but not really against the team, but more against the mid laner Trouble Bubble. He said, and this is a shout out to every other mid laner in the SLE, he said that he feels like most mid laners in the SLE are just not good in laning. They are just farming all game because they don't really outmatch their laners individually. And they refuse to skill check him and his playstyle. And he thinks Trouble Bubble is one of the few mid laners who is actually good at laning, who is actually winning lanes against GodofHax. Like GodofHax thinks he wins most lanes when it comes to skill checking. So yeah, that's why he wants to play against Trouble Bubble, because then he doesn't have such a boring lane according to him. And the last team that we will take a look at today is Shaka Bantu. Shaka Bantu right now is on 5-5. And we've talked to the top laner, Michidi or Memnon, about his team. And he was asked in general how he feels about the league, about his team right now. And he says that the league feels really well balanced. You have some teams that are weaker than others, and you have some teams that are stronger than others. But most teams are in around the same skill area. He feels like nearly every team can beat every other team in the SLE, and says that that's a really big benefit of this split. He has a lot of fun with it. And yeah, he compared his team to Blazing Pandas, his team of last split. Last split he was on Blazing Pandas. He got 3rd in the SLE, the bronze medal. And now he's on Shaka Bantu, and he said individually the team is weaker than BP. On BP, his team had like top 5 players on every single role, and that way they had mainly just to work on macro, not on their individual performance. Now on Shaka Bantu, they have a lot of individual issues as well that people need to put time in to solve. And that makes it harder to solve macro and team play issues as well, because you first have to look at the individuals and then you can solve the team aspects. The team was basically formed around him, around his jungler Surge, and the support McLarens, and then they basically found the other two players and added them to the lineup. He calls his team really versatile. He thinks they have a lot of different play styles. They are really hard to predict. Every single player of them has a lot of different options, and he thinks that's like their biggest strength. But he also thinks it's the biggest weakness, because other people might not know what Shaka Bantu's gonna play, but Shaka Bantu also doesn't know what they're gonna play. Like he says, they often lack a clear vision for themselves in draft beforehand, and oftentimes get outdrafted because they just don't have that idea of how Shaka Bantu should work as a team. So yeah, he really wants to work on that to find a real identity in the gameplay. In general, he thinks the biggest positive surprise were the backpack sailors. He said that he didn't really have the team as a good, like a top team in the SLE, a contender. He thought they would not be that good. And he's really surprised that they managed to start that strong, even though their schedule was pretty hard. And on the negative flip side, he thinks that Vision Pearl and Gucci Yang both are really disappointing. He said that those two orcs, Vision and Gucci, they have a history of always fielding good rosters. Like no matter which roster they bring into the SLE, it's always good, it's always competitive. And Vision Pearl and Gucci Yang are not right now. And yeah, he's really disappointed in that. Yeah, but besides that, he really wants to play against EB, against his old team. He was on the EB roster in Split 3. He thought about going back to EB for this split. In the end, he decided to go on and play on Shaka Bantu. And he wants to play against his old teammates. And besides EB, he really wants to play against Gucci Yin as well. Because his long split teammate, Sanix, is now on Gucci in the ADC. So he wants to play his friends, basically. And to name a player as the biggest surprise, he thinks GodofHax is a big surprise. He didn't really have GodofHax as a good top laner in the SLE, and he feels like GodofHax has stepped up a lot and is looking like one of the better top laners in the league so far. Alright, and we're coming to the last segment, a bigger one. I'm being joined by Savage Mikus, the other admin of the SLE. How are you doing, Mikus?
Oh, I'm doing great. Excited to be here in the SLE podcast. Actually, we tried to do some SLE podcasts before, but they never really went anywhere. But yeah, happy that you're doing this, Lance.
Yeah, thank you for that. And thank you to have you here. I have a few questions prepared for you about the SLE in general. So now I would just go into it. The SLE has changed a lot over the last splits. You were there for a longer time. When did you join the staff team, and why did you choose to do that back then?
That's a question from the history books. That I think it was like at the end of season 2. During season 2, me and Gucci joined, and to be fair, like not to tune my own horn too much, but I feel like SLE was dying really back then, because there's so many issues with the league, mainly the fact that teams had too much like free time to schedule themselves, so games that kept getting postponed, and there was no excitement about the league. The streams were very rare or bad quality. Yeah, people were just fighting sometimes in the Discords, but none like positive excitement. So yeah, the first time I kind of joined the staff team, stuff like that, was with the articles. Really, I just released some articles. I had some experience writing articles for some sports leagues, for some amateur sports leagues before. I used to organize like NHL, Esports NHL tournaments and like FIFA tournaments. And yeah, I noticed that whenever I write about the teams and whenever I write about the players, people get like extremely excited about it, and I saw the same opportunity and took it here as well. But After that, Rengo actually noticed my passion for it, how I communicate with people, and the impact it lands on the community. And he just invited me to join the staff team to become a mod, and everything else history. Actually, then Seiji was also like part of it. He wanted me to post on the website. There was lots of old faces back then, and I'm taking forever to answer this question, but. It was back then in season 2, and I actually I didn't necessarily want to join the staff team. At that beginning, I was just there to for me, I saw my role as how to make the league more interesting for the community, not how to administrate, not how to enforce rules. I always said that my understanding of things like that is quite poor, because for me, I am always focused on how do we make this league more fun for the community, no matter what is the rule. And some of my decision making has been like kind of skewed by that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some people in the staff team who didn't really plan on joining, but they were around and were doing some stuff. For example, Ichi was doing already like the in-house queue, and he was managing stuff, and we were just taking him into the moderation team.
Yeah.
But yeah, you said you joined at the end of like Split 2. When you joined the staff team, when it was clear you are part of the moderation team, what was your first real goal or your main goal for the SLE? And would you say that you achieved that by now?
Oh, do you mean it as joining the staff/admin, or do you mean it as joining the league in general?
I mean it like joining the moderation team, like when it was clear that you will also do your part for the SLE.
Yeah, from that standpoint, I'd say absolutely achieved what I wanted, and the thing that I wanted was to ignite the interest from the community, to make it more interactive, to make it feel like it matters, not like you just join some random Discord and there's a tournament and whoever wins, like, nice, good for you, you can be happy for a day. I try to build it up so it has a structure, it has history. I gathered all of the stats that from every single game that I could have get from the history. So there's like all-time stats, so you can compare yourself, gather the records, created narratives about people, about players, and back then I'd say I did what I wanted to do, and it was after that was successfully, I'd say, taken over by people like you. Who have done great work with it as well. So I put in the first blocks of like base, so the league can grow, and after that, it's been a great self-growing project.
Yeah, and I mean, for the SLE, for many people, the SLE is special because of the content, because there's so much interaction.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like a personal league. And what many might not realize, and I'm really happy that you made that clear, is that this kind of league started not at Split 1, but it was something that was brought by the community, mainly by you, and then later was carried on by other people. And that's why it's so important for people that are not part of the moderation team yet to also engage in the community. If they have an idea for content, they can just do that. And that's always what makes the SLE great.
People like you, people like Shrekman, right, as well. He has created his own content. And even Ichi, right, the in-house queue is also a huge part of the SLE right now. So, I feel like I started it, and I'm very, very happy that other people continuing it.
Yeah, I agree. As someone who has been around for a longer time, if you had to rank Split 1 to 6 from worst, number 6, to best, which would be number 1, how would you do it? And why is your decision the way that it is?
That's that's actually a question that has been discussed so many times in the SLE Discord discussions, right? But I have completely retired the idea of ranking the splits like the relative strengths or anything like that. But from purely the organization standpoint, I would say. I didn't play in season 1, but season 2 was for sure the worst due to constant pushing of the calendar. I think there was a team Evolution back then who couldn't play a single game for a whole month, and then like the playoffs had to be so delayed, and that was absolutely terrible. And we didn't have necessarily rules to punish actions like that fully. It was just like people just need to find a way to play. So that was definitely the worst. I can't rank season 1 because I wasn't there, but from what I understand, it was even better than it was better than season 2 because there was less delays. So. Yeah, it goes like second season, then the first season. It was infamously toxic, so I don't necessarily like that part. And then there's seasons 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm definitely biased towards season 5 being the best season so far because the structure was great. People could not postpone games. There was very little dropouts. And I know the teams didn't like the playoffs because they were too long and the 5-game series were too exhausting. But I, as a spectator and as a admin, I absolutely loved it. The amount of times the games went 5 games, it was so exciting to watch. So that was definitely the best season for me. And I won't rank actually season 6 because this hasn't been wrapped up yet. So for me, season 3 was also pretty great. Multiple amazing storylines. The best team ever to assemble in SLE also being there. And season 4 for me goes as the third best season.
All right. Right now we have the Swiss season, right? Like all the teams that participate in the SLE, they are in one big league, but you don't play every other league. In the past, it was not that way. In the past, we had Division 1 and Division 2. Basically, you had a play-in stage beforehand, and half of the teams got to Division 1, half of the teams got to Division 2, and you played every other team in that division. What do you actually prefer? Do you prefer the Swiss season or the old 2-division format that we had?
Absolutely. Swiss format all the way. I think it's the best format, by the way, by far that I've seen in any kind of sports league, like including like professional sports. Like I follow a lot of pro sports as well, and I feel like the league, the formats there get quite stale. There are like teams that are at the bottom of standings that just losing every single game, and of course it's a big moment for them when they can even get a draw against like a top team, right? Like some I don't know, Southampton gets a draw against like a Manchester City. They're like super happy, right? But still, I don't think like the benefits outweigh the bad parts of it. And Swiss has been a blessing. Every single week, every single team gets a chance to win their matchup. Maybe not, maybe except for week 1, right? And then there's some skewed matchups. But overall, it keeps it interesting. It also makes the teams to not get eliminated from the playoff chances that early because they keep playing their ranked teams. And I feel like it makes the regular season fun for everyone. It's actually a good question for you as well, right, Lance? You have played in many Discord leagues as well. So do you feel like this is the better format, or have you seen something better somewhere else?
I've not expected to be put to be asked that question as well, but I can answer it. I'm also playing right now in leagues where it's not the case, where you have like a division format, a normal league system, and I prefer Swiss so much above it. Of course, it would be nice to play every other team in the SLE as well. Like I would like to play every other team, but if I have the choice to play every team, but therefore it's less exciting, or if I play a set amount of teams that should be similar to my strength, I think that's way better. And I mean, Split 5 in the SLE has shown how high the excitement is with Swiss. Like, the excitement was so much higher than Split 4 or any time before. And this split, I think we can also see how people are interested in the Swiss format. And I actually prefer it way more above the
absolutely. I don't think we're ever changing it. I don't think we're ever changing the Swiss format in SLE. And absolutely love it.
Yeah, one more thing that I want to add is that teams can grow over a split, right? And we had teams that dropped down to Division 2 that should, if you count the strength at the end of the split, they should be a Division 1 team. And on the other side, we had teams that got to Division 1 that in the end weren't good enough for Division 1. They had a good week, or the opponents had bad games or something, and then they got Division 1. And I think Swiss kind of solves that, because even if you start really strong, if you don't keep on playing strong, you're not gonna finish at the top. And on the other side, if you have a weak start, you're not destined to be weak, like at the bottom for the whole split. You can still come up, and I think that's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like teams like Runtime and Negative and Mental Energy in Season 2 were like, they could have easily played in Division 1. Similarly, in Black Manta Season 4, right, they went down to Division 1 and Division 2, and it was very boring for them and for the opponents as well. So, yeah, this season absolutely solves it.
Yeah. I actually want to go over to the next question because we're already like
Yeah.
a long way into this one. If you would have to name the 5 most historic teams in your opinion in the SLE history, which 5 teams would it be? For simplicity, we will count all the Gucci teams as Gucci and all the Vitagen teams as Vitagen, just so it's not multiple teams of the same org here.
So it's like one team per org, and the Sanctuary is not the one org. I'd say they're still kind of like I don't even know, like a group
it's a
of teams.
community of friends,
Yeah.
basically. It's not connected that much, though.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would say that we instantly knock out the 2 obvious candidates, right? Gucci and Vitagen are absolutely 2 of the most iconic teams in SLE, especially Gucci playing like from Season 2 to right now. Always being up there as a contenders and as a big story makers. So they have to be iconic. Vitagen there as well, the big rival. I always love the rivalry between Gucci and Vitagen because it's like the Gucci, the good against Vitagen, which is like negative spelled from the other side, right? The good against the negative. It's just the story tells itself. Other than that, I would have to include Runtime for sure as well. They were a part of SLE for a long time. The only one of few Italian teams to play in SLE, but they just performed for so many of the seasons. So all the love to my Italian brothers. An early kind of pioneer team, huge in content and huge in SLE leadership, was Red Team 1. With players like Sanix playing for them, Rengo, Loon, Brady, like lots of big names played for them, and lots of names that actually went down to be like admins and casters and just a big community, parts of the community. So that would definitely be one of them as well. And last but not least, on I would say your team, Linus Black Manta, has been a huge story in SLE as well. Every single season they play, they make noise for better or for the worst, right? And they did bring you here as well, right? So Black Manta has to be. If we think about some honorable mentions, of course, Wacky Waits, also long SLE career. Similarly to Snackback, also appearing here quite many times. Other than that, I would include the whole CCG organization. They were a big part till Season 4, I believe, as well. Participating in every single season. And but if we go down to just 5, then it's Gucci, Vitagen, Runtime, Red Team 1, and Black Manta.
I think there's one more team that I would like to mention as an honorable mention, and that's Primordials. Like, they've been around for Split 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they started as a stronger team, like a team in Split 3. They won Division 2. They didn't really make it far in playoffs, but they won Division 2. In Split 4, they made playoffs again. Split 5 was a complete disaster. They didn't win a single game. They got 2 wins, but they were from a team that forfeited earlier the split, so they didn't really win anything. And they still came back because they enjoy the league. They have some internal problems, sadly, which is why they couldn't finish this split, but they want to come back for the next split, and it shows that you don't have to win anything, or you don't have to win the SLE, you don't have to be a top 5 team to still enjoy the league and to still be a part of the story. And that's why I think Primordials deserves an honorable mention, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and I think if they wouldn't have done that terrible role swap, maybe it was more fun for them to play with swapped roles, but I think they were much more competitive with Alefeld in the jungle and White Wolves on support. So the original squad was pretty good, and but the thing that kind of takes away from them is that they were never that loud and active in the community. They were just, most of the time they were just playing. Some of their players sometimes joined for some in-houses, but overall they were doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's true. But going over to the next question, do you have any greater goals for the future of the SLE? Are there any big projects ahead of us that you maybe want to leak here, or in general?
I always imagined SLE to be there. Yeah, so I created Gucci and I wanted to impact to leave my impact on SLE as places to be for people to kind of have a like kind of a positive gaming way, like so you're not just stuck alone home playing video games, playing solo queue, and like getting more toxic by the day. I created the Gucci and I participated in SLE to make it so that there's place for people to come to talk to other people, to make friends, and to be part of the great communities that we have here. And I think we have quite successfully done that, and with the league that we have built. Of course, it would be great to upscale it to involve even more people, maybe to return to 2 divisions. So if we would expand ever to many more teams, but I mean, the organization is just has as much resources as they can have, right? We can have only Linus producing that much content, and I cannot help as much as I used to these days. But I like the way it is. I would like to upscale. I would like to involve some streamers more streamers in the league, just so like there's more eyes on the league. And but I think we're on an upwards trend, and if we can be the biggest, not the biggest, but I know maybe the best run as Discord league, that's something I would be very glad about. And another thing is that if we can give the first step for some people to kind of get themselves involved in esports. We have had some casters starting in SLE. Brillman, for example, I think it was named Brillman. He kind of started SLE and then joined and became a pro. Riot signed Riot contracted caster. We see great producers like Pepper, right? I think he could find himself being signed by some league to do the spectating there as well. So and we see some other people through Gucci and through SLE kind of climb themselves up to like kind of semi-pro League of Legends player levels as well. So I think if we can be that that good kind of good vibe stepstone for people, then or just a sanctuary in a way for people, then that's all I want from the league.
Yeah, I actually think that's a great answer, because I've also as an admin thought about that oftentimes. Of course, there are things that could be really cool to introduce, things that would elevate the SLE to another level. And if we have the resources to do so, and if we can do it consistently, like if we don't bring something in that we have to take away later, but if we can bring it in and have it as something permanent in the league, then that's always good. But my main goal is that at least each split is on the same level as the one before, that we don't downgrade, that people don't feel like the league is dying or anything, but that it just keeps on going and keeps on being great, because we got so much feedback and so many people who joined the SLE who've been around for such a long time, who've made new friends over the SLE, over the community. And in the end, I just want the SLE to keep going, keep being this league that people enjoy, that they put their free time into, that they get so excited about. And that's basically what you also said, but I wanted to say it in my own words one more time.
Absolutely.
Going over to the next question, which is also one that looks at the future a bit. Can we expect a split 7 in the future, or will split 6 be the last SLE split?
I think that's a bit silly question. I think I see no reason for there to not be a split 7. I think SLE is running strong. Of course, if we would lose a big part of the administration team, right, then it would be much more difficult. But I feel like we have many great members of the community that would kind of fill in the organization stuff, as we have supported each other throughout these years. And I'd say split 7 will surely be there, and let's hope it builds on the momentum we have here and is even better than the previous splits.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree on that. And lastly, do you have any finishing words, anything you want to tell the community? Go ahead.
SLE has been quite like a big part of my life. I've even included SLE in my CV that landed me the best job that I've ever landed and ever had. Of course, it takes a lot of time to work, but still happy about it. And yeah, just cherish the memories that you're gathering here. Cherish the friends that you're getting to know. Remember that we are all people. Sometimes some opinions might differ, but the fact that you have the friends, the fact that you can spend the time here and yeah, be part of something, that's very, very important. And maybe someday, years from now, you will remember and tell your grandchildren that you used to be this kind of semi-pro league champion. You used to fight in the SLE. Like they will play some new video game, and you'll be like, back in my day, and then you will remember the iconic JL Baran steal in season 3 finals and Shredder, right? So yeah, this is a great thing that we have running here, and yeah, keep up the good work. Especially all the content creators and all the people talking in Shitpost channel. I love you all.
All right. And that's been Mikus, everyone. I wish you a great day, Mikus. And yeah. Okay, so we are nearly done with the podcast. I would just quickly go over the plans for the future for this podcast. The next podcast, of course, will come out at either the end of April or the beginning of March. Not March, May, when I have time for it. Of course, yeah, we will have another Super Week next week after Easter. So what that basically means is you will have 2 matches in that week, except for like instead of the 1 match that you had basically normally. The first match will be you will able to schedule the first match between Monday, which is the Easter Monday, and Saturday. The default time would be Saturday, for example, if you can't find a solution with your opponent, not a better date than the Saturday 20 o'clock CET, then that will be the time. And then you will have another match on Sunday. And that match on Sunday will be the last one of the regular season. After that, the regular season is done. Every team that's 17 or lower in the standings will be eliminated. And we will go over the playoffs. Additionally, we will probably have a live stream where we will announce the MVPs. I think this weekend we will probably contact all the teams and ask them for the vote. You can vote for the MVP in general, like which player is the most important for their team, who makes the biggest difference for their team. Then you can vote for the rookie of the split, which player who's new is basically performed the best. You can vote for the all-star team of the split, like which is the team of split 6 basically, and you will be able to vote for your fan favorite team, or like which team did you like to play against the most, or which team had the biggest positive impact for you. Additionally to that, you can will probably also be able to vote for the caster of the split, like which caster gave you the biggest positive feelings, and also for the moderator of the split, which person of the moderation team has done the most in your opinion, or has made the biggest job. For example, you could take into account the in-house queue for Itchy, you could take into account the Discord organization for Lina, or for example this podcast for me. But it could also be that you vote for the moderator and the cast of the split later and not next week. We'll see about that. Additionally, we will release the team of the season next week. Basically, you have the MVP votes, which is basically the community award, which is the major one. And then you also have, the same way we have team of the week every week, we have team of the season, which is basically from the SLE, the official team of the season. So you have 2 awards. And yeah, in playoffs, of course, the biggest difference to last split was that we have double elimination now for the entire round. Last time you basically had single elimination in round 1 and 2, and only the last 4 teams played double elimination. Now we have it completely double elimination. So yeah, every team that gets playoffs can at least play 2 best of 3s. So yeah, that's basically everything that I had on my roadmap. I had a lot of fun with this podcast. Like always, you can just write feedback to me. You can publicly talk about this podcast if you want, go into discussions, whatever you want. And if you have anything that you would like to see on the next episode of the podcast or like to hear, but then you can also just tell me that. Until then, I wish you all a great Easter weekend. And yeah, see ya all.